Got to film another video before the zit that's on my forehead becomes so big I can't film around it. What am I doing? I'm doing a little fret dressing right now. Took a chance on a guitar that needs a little bit of love, hopefully just a little bit and not a lot. Even if it needs a lot of love, I'll be able to get my money back, but I'm hoping it's just a little bit so that this becomes a good one for me. This is a Les Paul Jr. Special from 2012. It was 1 year that it came with a very specific set of pickups, which are covered. So what's the deal? Why am I doing this? Well, the frets themselves are usually made out of a softer material than the steel strings of a guitar. So after repeated presses and constant pressing down and really digging in to fret each note, the wear and tear on the frets results in little divots right where the strings line up. After a while, that can cause poor intonation on a guitar where the pitch becomes a little bit hinky, not quite as exact. And also, if you're bending a note, which involves pressing the string to the fret and then pushing it up the fret to increase the tension and bringing it back down, right? These strings can get caught in those divots and it makes it a little awkward. So, the remedy to frets that have developed divots over time is to file them down a little bit flat. Just file the top off of them down to basically the bottom of the divot. But then they're all flat. You want them round so that it's a rounded part like my knuckles, so it's a nice precise pitch instead of a flat surface that gets a little bit more approximate again. So then once you've filed them down flat, you gotta round them over again. It's called re-crowning. And what I have for that is this little file. The file has a little channel, and that puts the curvature back onto the fret after you file it down to the bottom of the divot. It does mean your frets ultimately wind up a little bit smaller, but generally modern frets start off big enough that you can do a proper fret job a couple, 3, 4 times, maybe 4 times, before you actually have to re-fret it entirely. This would be this guitar's first fret job. So you can see the frets look red. There's a reason for that, because I made them red. Before filing, I generally mark off the frets so that when I do file them, I know that I've gotten the whole thing flat and filed down to the bottom of the divot, because you take the material off, everything except what's in the divot is shiny silver, and then the divot is still red. And then once everything goes silver, you've gotten it all. You don't need to go any further. Let's not do any overkill. Then, once the tops are filed flat, mark them again. And then what that helps, you can see the difference here. I'm about 3/4 of the way done with this job. We've got basically the flat tops of these frets that are entirely red on the flat portion. Then as we come over here to these parts that I've re-crowned already, you see it's just a little tiny little red line. And that's what you want to show you that that's your most precise contact point with the string. So you can see little tiny red lines here, and then right here I haven't done any of the filing to re-crown yet. So I'm just working my way down. I've got everything masked off so that no fret material, the metal, gets into magnetic parts or into any of the cavities or anything where it can oxidize and start to rust. Working on this fret now. And I've got the fingerboard taped off so that I don't run any massive divots down using these metal edges, trying to protect the delicate fingerboard of the wood portion as much as I can. Yeah, so now you can see that fret. Maybe you can see it. That fret is now just a much thinner line. You can see the fret material pulling off there. Much thinner line than the one that's fully marked next to it there. Just little red lines left on the top there. That's about as precise as I need to worry about it now. I have to do a deep cleaning of this fingerboard, which has been protected under the tape while I was doing the hard edge filing. I'm going to pull all this tape off. Then do a little bit of scraping of somebody else's finger gunk. That's always a little bit gross. Then a bit more with some abrasive pads to clean both the spaces in between this wood, and also kind of finish the crowning off as well. So time lapse goes now. So the different colors of tape are just different widths. That's it. That's all it is. Got to get all that off and then start with the scraping with the razor blade, just as flat as possible, as gentle as possible. One of the things that does also help is it does kind of scrape off the top dead, dried out layer of a neglected fingerboard, so it comes out quite a bit smoother, and then transition into these Scotch-Brite pads, varying abrasive ratings there. All that stuff you saw in the time lapse, I did that like 3 more times in order to get it as smooth as I could. While I was doing that, I noticed there's a little split in the fingerboard right there. It is not really visible, but you can feel it. I don't know that you would feel it while you were playing, just because it's under the strings and kind of back towards the nut here. But I am going to go ahead and fill that split with some very, very thin CA glue, super glue, essentially, and then get that flat so that it's so that is at least filled and the split is glued and solid. So I'm going to do that now. Actually, it took me a bit of doing to get the lighting right so that this split would show. I guess that's a good sign. This is it right here, and it's so subtle. If I turn this so that the lighting is different, it just kind of looks like wood grain. And all the other stuff is just wood grain. This line here, this is all just wood grain, not split. But that one right there, you can just barely feel it. So what I got is the Star Bond, super thin. This is just super glue. And this is like a cosmetic applicator brush, or like for like dental bleaching, just a little like medical brush. I'm gonna dip it in and swab it on. It's so thin, it'll just go right down into that crack. Ironically, in order for me to see in person, I've got to block the light that the camera is using. So apologies in advance. I can now see where the split is, but y'all can't. So anyway, a little swabby-dobby into there, and just right in a line. Right there. And you can see it's actually starting to wick right down in. Right down in. I went ahead and took the nut off, so I just have a little masking tape barrier there. Get a little another little dip of the CA glue. Let that run down into that grain. See if I can alter that so you can see where it's going. That's it. Didn't take much. I did about 2 more passes, and then the super glue stopped wicking down into that little crack there. So I'm gonna let that dry, and then we just kind of scrape it flush again with the old razor blade. I'll probably do a little bit more cleanup around this part of the fingerboard, just to kind of blend it and get it super smooth. But now it's just kind of a waiting game. I do have this accelerator, also by the same super glue folks, that I can spray on it. And all that does is, you can see it evaporating super fast off of the fingerboard. All that does is chemically encourage the super glue to dry faster. Gotta do a whole bunch of this. Actually, maybe this should be a time lapse as well. Yeah, I'm gonna spare you the sound of this scraping, but it was pretty effective. See, most of the bulk of the top of the fingerboard glue just came off in that last pass. The split is still super solid, so just smoothing things out on the top there, and then switch over to the Scotch-Brite pads. These kind of work like sandpaper. only a little bit less mess. The different colors are different ratings as far as grit, and as you get lighter, I got the gray one here, and now I switch to the white, that gets it even smoother. I'm feeling pretty good about that. It's pretty much disappeared. If you're looking for it, you can find it. But the edges of that split were a little bit sharp, so you could feel them really, really easily before. Now you kind of have to go hunting for it and know that it's there in order to even feel anything. So I'm feeling pretty good about that little solve. I'm going to do another kind of final polish on the frets themselves. Then I'm going to, take its pajamas off and put its show clothes back on. See how this puppy actually plays after a setup. Fretboard is super dry here, so I did run a little bit of oil on it. Wanted to do that before messing with polishing compound, just in case I got a little sloppy. I would not want the polishing compound to soak into the fretboard. I would prefer that to be the proper oil. But yeah, this is just the Music Nomad Frine system, which kind of just sounds like a drunk person saying fine. Getting it all back together now. I'm not convinced that these pickups here are original, but that's because they're nicer than what I think came on it originally. The PAF 57 Classic and 57 Classic Plus are very nice pickups, so I think maybe a previous owner did a little upgrade for me. Thanks there, past tense guy. You can see the ultrasonic bathtub there. Got all the hardware all totally cleaned off and sparkly and shiny as new. And she's all strung up, got the knobs back on, and now I'm just cleaning her and doing a setup. Checking string height, checking truss rod adjustments. Final reveal time. Here it is. 2012 Gibson Les Paul Special Humbucker. These two pickups are what set it apart. There was like that 1 year in 2012 where they used, these are 57 Classic PAF pickups, for those of you nerds out there who care about that stuff, instead of the standard P90s. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's a pretty rare configuration for this guitar. Awesome. Got it set up. It's playing pretty well. The Bad and the Ugly are on the back. So it's got quite a bit of finish damage. You can see all the buckle rash and all that kind of dimpling there. And then there's this right here. This big donk cracked the finish here. My concern when I bought this guy, or when I went to go see it, was that it was actually a crack in the neck through to the wood, and that the whole neck would be unstable as a result. Thanks to the magic of video editing, this thing has been strung up to tension, brand new strings, for about 45 minutes. I cranked on this neck like crazy when I was looking at it to see if I could get it to like increase that gap there. Just a little hairline, little finish hairline. But I think that's going to make any potential buyer pretty nervous. And that's an ugly chunk there too. So I got to make a decision as to what I want to do about this. If I want to try and fix the finish, just flow a little of that super thin super glue in there and leave it be, or what? At any rate, there she is. 2012 Gibson Les Paul Special Humbucker with PAFs from a 57 Classic. And a little bit of bumping and bruising. TV yellow, classic Gibson color. Super fun. So who knows how long I'll have this, but I'm gonna have fun with it in the meantime.